Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube, and I've got a fascinating article to share with you here. This has to do with a subject that I've covered for years now on the channel, and it has to do with the coming alien deception. I have a whole playlist called Alien Demon Deception that you can check out sometime. I had never been one to believe in little gray aliens and little visitors from other planets. This is the narrative that we've been sold for decades now, specifically through all forms of media. It's always the idea that, there's other planets out there with other little beings and all these things we're seeing in the skies. Well, that's them. They're just, dropping by to say hi. And as I said, I've covered this subject time and time again throughout the years. Please check out that playlist if you're interested to see more in this. And through the videos I've done, you'll see how we've been deceived and how we're being set up for extraterrestrial contact. Predictive programming, social engineering, all of these tools and methods have been used on the public for many, many years now, all getting us ready for this great deception. So when I saw this article come out, I just knew that I had to make a video on this and share this with you guys. NASA is bringing scientists and theologians together to prepare the world for extraterrestrial contact. As I said, I've studied this stuff for years now, so I'm not even surprised to see this. If anything, sometimes I'm surprised it's taken this long. But let's take a look at this article together. It's very interesting stuff. Now this is a fairly lengthy article. I'm going to read it to you, so come along with me and check this out, guys. I think this is absolutely fascinating. I also think this is very, very important. I think there's a really big chance that we're going to see this great deception play out before our very eyes. And it's going to be really important to understand what these things are. Again, I don't believe these are little aliens from other planets. I think that ancient aliens, all this other stuff, it's all psyop. But the connection I've always made with these beings and with these things goes back to the fallen angels. They're demonic interdimensionals. So come with me now as we check out this article together and see what NASA, scientists, and theologians are preparing for. A couple of months ago, top U.S. astronomers gathered in front of Congress to let them know that extraterrestrial life exists without question. They cited the sheer size of the universe as their most important proof, emphasizing that there are trillions of stars out there, with 1 in every 5 most likely harboring an Earth-like planet. Though it's important to keep in mind that planets do not have to be Earth-like in order to harbor life. This time, NASA and the Library of Congress have teamed up to bring together scientists, theologians, philosophers, and historians from around the globe for a 2-day symposium in order to discuss how to prepare the world for extraterrestrial contact. They say we're looking at all scenarios about finding life. If you find microbes, that's one thing. If you find intelligence, it's another. And if they communicate, that's yet something else. And depending on what they say, it's going to be something else entirely different. The idea is not to wait until we make a discovery, but to try and prepare the public for what the implications might be when such a discovery is made. I think the reason that NASA is backing this is because of all the recent activity in the discovery of exoplanets and the advances in astrobiology in general. People just consider it much more likely now that we're going to find something, probably microbes first and maybe intelligence later. The driving force behind this is from a scientific point of view that it seems much more likely now that we are going to find life at some point in the future. And all of this is from astronomer and symposium organizer and the former chief NASA historian Stephen J. Dick. Now here's where it also gets even more interesting. One of the theologians present was Brother Guy Consolmagno, and he used to be the president of the Vatican Observatory Foundation. And these are the guys who are in charge of the Vatican's telescope named Lucifer, right? It is named Lucifer. And this is what they use to keep an eye on the skies, right? To keep an eye on the stars. So again, we have that fallen angel connection, right? That satanic connection to these UFOs and aliens. But Brother Guy Consolmagno says, I believe alien life exists, but I have no evidence. I'd be really excited, and it would make my understanding of my religion deeper and richer in ways that I can't even predict yet, which is why it's so exciting. He is urging the public not to be surprised when extraterrestrial life is discovered, because it is inevitably going to happen, he says. He even said that he would be happy to baptize them. If it's intelligent extraterrestrial life that's discovered, the Vatican has been very open to the idea of intelligent extraterrestrial life being our friends, our brothers, and they've expressed these views for a very, very long time. Earth is not the center of the universe, and it's looking very likely that the next major paradigm-shifting revelation will be the fact that we are not alone in the universe. It's great to see the mainstream world gather, discuss, and prepare for this possibility and ultimate reality. And it's a great segue to create more awareness about the world of secrecy, the worlds within our world that deal with projects the human race knows nothing about. The other probability, intelligent extraterrestrial life, is already here, and has been for a very long time. In the United States, at least half of all Americans say that we're not alone in the universe. 50% of Americans already believe that there is some form of life on other planets, while only 17% think there is not. A quarter of Americans believe that intelligent extraterrestrial visitors have already come to the Earth and have been doing so for a very, very long time. And here's one example. Yes, there have been crashed craft and bodies recovered. We are not alone in the universe. They have been coming here for a very long time. That comes from Apollo 14 astronaut, Air Force captain, and founder of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, Dr. Edgar Mitchell. There are multiple reasons why the extraterrestrial question continues to gain popularity. People are starting to ask questions about the world around them, utilizing critical thinking and investigation. After thoroughly researching this topic, you will be hard-pressed to deny that we are not alone, and that we are being visited. How often do you look up into the night sky and wonder just how many stars, planets, galaxies, and more are out there? Space has always been deeply fascinating to scientists, philosophers, artists, just about everyone, in fact. What is it about deep space that so forcefully grabs our attention? To think about just how big the universe is can really put things into perspective. Counting the stars in the universe is like trying to count the number of sand grains on a beach. It's an effort and futility. Although estimates vary among different experts, the general consensus is that there are at least between 100 billion and 200 billion galaxies in our universe. Think about that for a moment. And now throw in billions of stars in each galaxy. This number could very easily be in the trillions for all we know. Take the Milky Way galaxy, for example, which measures to about 120,000 light-years across. Scientists estimate that at least 10 billion habitable Earth-sized planets exist in the Milky Way alone. But it's important to keep an open mind about the necessary conditions for life. Given our estimation of the size of the universe or multiverse, odds are that we are not alone. The past few years have seen a surge of whistleblowers coming out and saying some pretty remarkable things. Bradley Manning, Edward Snowden, and Julian Assange have received the most attention, but the reality is that there are hundreds of whistleblowers who have come forward with verified credentials and backgrounds. Mass surveillance and the security state are not the only thing shocking people around the world. It's the fact that many of these whistleblowers claim that we are not alone in the universe. They might be easy to ignore, too, if it weren't for the impressive backgrounds these people have in their respective fields. The first one that comes to mind is Paul Hellyer, former Canadian Defence Minister, the man responsible for unifying the Canadian Air Force, Army, and the Navy into one unified group, now known as the Canadian Forces. For someone with such a background to come out and make these extraordinary claims was pretty shocking indeed, and definitely grabbed the attention of many people. At one point he had said, "Decades ago, visitors from other planets warned us about the direction we were heading, and they offered to help. Instead, some of us interpreted their visits as a threat and decided to shoot first and ask questions later. Trillions of dollars have been spent on black projects, which both Congress and the Commander-in-Chief have deliberately kept hidden in the dark." In one of the cases during the Cold War in 1961, there were about 50 UFOs in formation flying south from Russia across Europe. The Supreme Allied Commander was very concerned and was about ready to press the panic button when they turned around and went back over the North Pole. They decided to do an investigation, and they investigated for 3 years, and they decided that with absolute certainty that 4 different species at least have been visiting this planet for thousands of years. There's been a lot more activity in the past 2 decades, especially since we invented the atomic bomb. Now, Paul Hellyer isn't the only one making these extraordinary statements. At least a dozen NASA astronauts have done the same. Just like Dr. Edgar Mitchell's quote, other astronauts have said some remarkable things, but let's take a look at a few examples here. Dr. Brian O'Leary, former NASA astronaut and Princeton physics professor, says, "There is an abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been monitoring us for a very long time. Their appearance is bizarre from any type of traditional materialistic Western point of view. That these visitors use the technologies of consciousness. They use toroids. They use co-rotating magnetic disks for their propulsion systems. That seems to be a common denominator of the UFO phenomenon. In my opinion, I think they were worried that it would panic the public, so they started telling lies about it. And then I think they had to tell another lie to cover the first lie. Now they don't know what to do or how to get out of it. Now it's getting to be so embarrassing to admit that all these administrations have told us so many lies for so long. There are a number of extraterrestrial vehicles out there cruising around." And the list goes on and on. Now, the latest in NASA astronaut statements about UFOs comes from 2005 International Space Station Commander Leroy Chow. Some of the most extraordinary statements about UFOs and extraterrestrials come from persons who have held some of the highest positions known, those who would really be in a position to know about possible extraterrestrial encounters. Lord Admiral Hill Norton, former Chief of Defense Staff and 5-star Admiral of the Royal Navy and Chairman of the NATO Military Committee, says, "There is a serious possibility that we are being visited and have been visited for many years by people from outer space and by other civilizations. Who they are, where they are from, and what they want should be the subject of rigorous scientific investigation and not to be the subject of just rubbishing by tabloid newspapers." General Carlos Castro Cavero, 1979, from UFOs in the National Security State, Volume 2, written by Richard Dolan, says, "Everything is in a process of investigation both in the United States and in Spain, as well as the rest of the world. The nations of the world are currently working together in the investigation of the UFO phenomenon." Jack Kasher, PhD Professor Emeritus of Physics, University of Nebraska, says, "There is another way, whether it's wormholes or warping space. There's got to be a way to generate energy so that you can pull it out of the vacuum, and the fact that they are here shows us that they found that way, whatever it is." Senator Barry Goldwater, chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said, "This thing has gotten so highly classified, it is just impossible to get anything on it. I have no idea who controls the flow of need to know, because frankly, I was told in such an emphatic way that it was none of my business, that I've never tried to make it my business since. I've been interested in this subject for a very long time, and I do know that whatever the Air Force has on the subject is going to remain highly classified for a very long time." Within the past few years, dozens of governments have admitted to allocating resources and having programs to study the UFO phenomenon. For instance, in Canada, the RCMP, Transport Canada, and the Department of National Defence recently admitted to tracking UFOs and investigating them. They've been doing it for years, accumulating thousands upon thousands of UFO-related documents. Many of these documents have since been officially released. Thousands upon thousands of UFO-related documents are now available in the public domain. Media outlets of all kinds are covering the topic. Almost every movie that comes out these days has something to do with space or some kind of extraterrestrial intelligence or alien contact. We've seriously been bombarded with the topic for a long time now, so it's very easy to see why it's on the minds of so many. The most recent case of mainstream extraterrestrial noise was made when scientists spoke to the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. Dan Worthamore of the SETI Research Center at the University of California, Berkeley, recently called for more funding to be allocated to the search for extraterrestrial life, since he says we are close to 100% certain that we are not alone. In mid-2013, the same committee held a hearing about exoplanet discoveries, but perhaps one of the largest UFO extraterrestrial hearings was at the National Press Club, which also took place in mid-2013. At this event, hundreds of researchers, activists, and military agency political witnesses representing 10 countries gave UFO extraterrestrial testimony to 6 former members of the United States Congress about events and evidence indicating an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. Former Senator Mike Gravel from Alaska, in 2008 presidential candidate, said that there is an extraterrestrial influence that is investigating our planet right now. Something is monitoring this planet, and they are monitoring it very cautiously. Now, apart from all these events, UFOs are a constant topic of interest in today's mainstream news. Unfortunately, most mainstream media outlets seek more to ridicule these things rather than investigate. There are millions of people out there claiming to have contact with extraterrestrial beings. This has played a large role in spreading the influence of extraterrestrial interest across the world. All of us seem to be naturally fascinated with the unknown, especially when it comes to space. It is simply in our nature. Neuroscience can now explain what happens to our body when we meditate, but it's something we all knew to be beneficial before the science explained why. Could extraterrestrial life be something similar? Is it something we all feel deep down inside, something we don't need proof for because we know it actually exists? Besides the thousands of videos available on YouTube, there's some very fascinating officially documented UFO footage available for us to see all over the internet. A few years ago the question was, do UFOs exist? And today that question has been answered, and the presence of UFOs performing maneuvers that defy our laws of physics has been well documented. The question is now shifted to, is that another extraterrestrial spacecraft? In our opinion, it's nothing to fear. In my opinion, they've been around forever. They were aware of us long before we became aware of them, as speculated with our ancient civilizations in Earth's brief past. Perhaps they will one day interact with humanity again. I guess we'll see. And that pretty much concludes the article, guys. I just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to leave a link below so you can check it out for yourself, but I think it's absolutely mind-blowing, guys. And again, as I said, I've covered this for a long time. I've been seeing this coming for a long time. I know I'm not alone in that. A lot of you have been feeling this and seeing it too. It's very exciting. It's also kind of creepy and scary. Because again, look at the way this article is written. They're talking about how these things have been with us for a long time. They're laying the foundation of the lie, of the deception. They're getting you ready for this. And they're calling some really big people together to explore these ideas. They really are trying to figure out how to prepare the public for massive disclosure. Again, I tell you, I don't believe that these are little aliens from other planets. I believe these are the fallen angels. These are demonic interdimensional beings. All this stuff is leading up to the so-called end days, or the end times, or the fifth age, if you will, the time of the Antichrist, the time of the New World Order. I don't know exactly how this is all going to play a part, but I know that it will play a part. How could I not know this? Again, we have articles like this showing us that they're getting ready to tell us. They're preparing us. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. And again, if you didn't realize it already, we've been set up for this for a long time. It's predictive programming, it's social engineering. They're trying to prepare you for this, what I believe will be a massive deception. Well, thanks for checking out the video, guys. Take care, and I'll talk to you real soon.